About 20 years ago at an ELT conference, I was tempted to buy these. They're called talking dice and they're just like ordinary dice, except they've got particular pictures on them. These ones have got pictures of people. So, a woman there or a baby. I think that's a baby there. Other ones have got weather on. There's a storm and sun. Forms of transport or rather random things. These have got spider and a mouse and things. Over the years, I've used these with lots of different classes at lots of different levels to elicit lots of different language. And there are a few things that are a little bit brilliant about them. The first is that they're a novelty. I only advise using them sparingly, but if you do this and don't use them too often, then they're very engaging. There's a game-like quality to the random nature of what gets thrown up. I think this makes them very appealing. They're a good way of encouraging a repeated use of certain structures without it being boring, what Seglowitz and Gapbonton call creative automatisation. And you can use this activity at any level. The output could be as simple as it's a cat at beginner levels, right up to I'm a great lover of the feline species at more advanced levels. So why am I telling you about these? Well, if you're in a face-to-face classroom, you can still get hold of these. This is the website, Talking Dice, or you can just Google Story Dice and you'll find lots of alternatives too. But recently I discovered a free online version of something that's very similar, and so I thought this would be great for teaching online. So this is what it looks like, and you can have a version here where you've got 5 dice, or you can have another version where you've got 9. It's free, it's really easy to use, you just share the link with your learners. The challenge of these, especially at lower levels, is that the random nature of this online version means that it may well throw up words which are outside of the vocabulary range of your particular class. If you look at this set, pliers, for example, is a fairly low frequency word. If you look at this set, binoculars is also fairly low frequency. There are a couple of ways around this. The first is to use the 9 dice version and tell them that they've only got to choose 3 or 4 perhaps that they know. The other thing to do is to say to them to look up the words that they don't know in a bilingual dictionary, especially if they feel that those words might be useful to them in the future. Okay, so you want some practical ways to use these? I'll give you 3 to start you off, but there are lots of others that you could potentially think of. The first one, simple descriptions. These are headphones, they're made of metal and plastic. I don't have any, but my son never takes his off. You could also introduce the phrase, it's used for doing something. This would elicit sentences like, they're used for listening to music. Perhaps more interestingly, you could elicit the phrase, they could be used for ing, so that you get a bit more creativity involved there. They could be used for not listening to your partner when he asks you to do the washing up, for example. Idea number 2, narratives. The really obvious way to use these is to get the learners to make some kind of story linking some of these things together. This is useful for simple past tense practice, or you could stipulate that they have to use a particular target language, past continuous, past perfect, or maybe discourse markers for narratives, one day, suddenly, fortunately, in the end. You could get a couple of learners to work together in a breakout room collaboratively to write a story, perhaps again on a shared document that then you can monitor. Perhaps when you're giving feedback on the content of this, you could give credit for stories which are more coherent or perhaps just more imaginative. Idea number 3, comparatives. We've all done the kind of exercises where learners have to produce sentences such as a car is faster than a bicycle. These are fine, but they're a bit dull. So the random nature of the images on the dice makes it a little bit more interesting. You could put the learners into pairs, tell one person to choose 2 of the items that are thrown up, and the other person has to make a sentence that compares them, hopefully in a kind of a funny way. You might get examples like, an ice cream doesn't last as long as a battery, or an office chair is safer than a pair of pliers. With all of these ideas, a great way to monitor the breakout rooms and to see what people are actually doing is to get them to write it on a shared Google Doc so that you can see what's going on in all of the breakout rooms. This is really useful for feedback afterwards too. I hope that you enjoy playing around with these, and thanks for watching. See you soon. Bye bye.